I'm going to be going over some of the most insane concepts or things from JoJo's Bizarre Adventures that I've talked about over the past few months. Now, this is a compilation video, so if you don't want to watch an hour and 30 minutes of video you've already watched, I completely understand that. Now, I may have said an hour and 30. I do not know how long this video is. I'm literally recording it. But I do know JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is a wonderful, great world of different and interesting concepts. So if you do enjoy JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, you'll probably enjoy these videos. And if you do, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you feel like. But without further ado, let's get into these nice videos. What is the best villain group within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures? This is a question that has internally plagued me for all of about 2 hours since I thought of this idea. And in all honesty, I'm finna go down the list of the 4 most popular and the ones that I can think of first off the bat. And I'm gonna pick which one is my favorite. Now, if you follow my TikTok, you may have gotten kind of spoiled on this video, because there is a video on my TikTok that is very similar to this video, and it's just this video in long form. But you're here now, so you might as well watch. Up first, we have the Sons of Dio. Now, the Sons of Dio as a villain group were pretty ass. Not pretty, they were very ass. As a matter of fact, we don't ever see them together, working together at all, I believe. Yeah, no, we just don't see them working together at all. Poochie decided that it would be better to use their powers one by one to pick off the different groups. So you had Ungalo going after Anasui and Weather Report with Bohemian Rhapsody. You got Donatello versus with Underworld. You got the other son with Sky High. But really, if they really wanted to do Jolene and them in, they would have just put Sky High and Underworld together, so that while Jolene and them were in that plane, they would just start seeing these fucking bug type shits fuck with them. Now granted, it probably would have messed with the canon, I guess, but like Underworld's stand ability, it's so incredibly hard to actually mess with it because they all have the instinct of knowing what's going to happen next. So, but as far as best JoJo group, the best villain JoJo group in specific too, no, I can't see it. They never really work together. They never really do anything of note for real. They don't beat anyone. No, just no. Up next, we have the Rock Humans. Now, with the Rock Humans, they're closer to being the best, only because part 8 was a very, very crazy trip, and it was a trip that you're just like, oh man, this is a well-oiled machine of a group. And it makes sense why. None of them have personal friendships or relationships. They aren't seeking that. All they're seeking is getting ahead and making it so that Rock Humans rule the planet over humans, which it's fair, don't get me wrong. And the only reason I say it's fair is because humans are literally cutting down their habitats day by day, thousands of acres by thousands of acres. As a team, they work like a well-oiled machine, ready and willing. They are the same team who caught Kira and Josephine at the same time, which I still don't know how Josephine was able to get off the island long enough for them to do the equivalent exchange, but they did. That was luck, not gonna lie. That was pure luck, because they both should have died then and there, especially going against Damo. But it felt like everyone in the group held their weight, from poor Tom to the doctor, Dr. Wu, of course Toru, the twins, Yotsuki, I'm pretty sure is their name, or his name. Everyone held their weight, and everyone's fight was pretty fun to watch. Even Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do, they're still in the running, but up next it's tough. It's real tough, because then you have the Pillarmen. Now everyone knows how much I love the Pillarmen. Hell, y'all, I'm pretty sure y'all saw that video a few days ago where I was glazing the fuck out of Wamu and the Pillarmen in general and their fans, because again, Y'all are goats. But the Pillarmen, if you really want to talk about well-oiled machines, you would be getting hit with a Pillarmen sweet combo that's draining all of your blood before you could even think. And then you would just see the others just talking casually. You know, finally woke up after 2,000 years, huh? Trying to get some food? Nah, we gotta find the red stone, right? Alright. Like, this was a very, very evil group with insane chemistry. The only thing that stops the Pillarmen or holds them back, or even is a drawback of the Pillarmen at all, is simply the fact that all of their morals and ideals are so starkly different from each other. Because you got Cars who, let's just say, he doesn't give a fuck about no one-on-ones. He don't give a fuck about the ones, the twos. All he care about is the redstone of Ija and you getting the fuck on, especially after you humiliate him. Because the thing with Cars was, he was keeping it cool throughout most of part 2, but it was eating him up the fact that a hormone user had not only did in one of his subordinates, but both of them. Sorry. All 3 of them, including Santana. So I can't blame completely Cars playing dirty, because again, this man ain't never had to fight clean. And then to end it off, we have the last group, which will be the deciding factor, Lquadra. Now, my thing with Lquadra, and this may be a little bit of bias, I don't care, they're tough. They're tough. I'm sorry. They are. Everything that they did and everything you learn about Lquadra, you're like, oh, well, I can't really fault y'all. Like, I'm not gonna lie. How can I fault Lquadra for being like, well, you pay other groups more than us, and we're the ones who are actually risking our lives and killing people. You know, we're actually getting people off the map. Can you give us some territory so that we have somewhere to stay? Or do you just want us always to be traveling clowns? And then after that was refused, them, now I won't lie, they were slow as shit for, they didn't send Sobre and the other one, but like, they were dumb as shit for going there, because they got cooked pretty nicely, pretty calmly. And then Lquadra got back pieces of them. That's crazy. The only issue with Lquadra is simply the fact that they ran into Bucciarati's squad. That's it. And they ran into a new rookie, which they had no intel about. Majority of them had no intel about. Shit, Diavolo probably barely had intel about Giorno for majority of Golden Wind. This man, Giorno, was a rookie with a life-giving stand. Everyone was cooked. I won't lie. That just put everyone on notice within Passion. But yeah, Lquadra, they were an excellent group. The only issue is that they just ran into that whole group. But after naming these 4, giving you a rundown, giving you choices, who would you pick? Because I'll let you know my pick, but I'll give you your moment of silence. Okay, silence done. You wanna know who I'm picking? Lquadra. 100%, 9 out of 10 times. Only reason it's not 10 out of 10 times, because 1 out of those 9 times, or 1 out of those 10 times, Pillarmen are gonna get the nod. The Pillarmen will get the nod. You know, I wanted to pick the Rock Humans. The Rock Humans are really cool. I feel like they might also get a nod maybe once every 1 out of 10 times. But other than that, Lquadra low-key got it on lock. But that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And don't forget to leave what the best villain group is in the comments. And until next time, peace. Duos is a very important thing within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and it's one of the most important things, at least in my opinion, when we're talking about characters in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. You can't get through a good part in JoJo's without a great duo. You look at part 1, you got Jonathan and Speedwagon. Part 2, Caesar and Joseph. Part 3, Kakyoin and Polnareff and Jotaro. Part 4, Josuke and fucking Okuyasu, or Koichi and Rohan. These are all fantastic duos. But today, I'm going to talk about some of the best duos within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and if y'all want another part, you can obviously leave it in the comments. I probably will make another part. But to start it off, give me Pucci and Dio. Now, some people may look at me like, well, why are you putting them? Of all the people I just named, why would I put Pucci and Dio? I'll give you my answer too. Pucci and Dio almost ended up accomplishing something that almost no one else really was going to accomplish, which was resetting the universe and essentially playing God on Earth. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I had to put them in the best duos because, again, not only did they get along just fine, Pucci was one of Dio's only real friends ever, probably his only real friend ever, and Pucci is one of the best bros you could have. Imagine your best bro gets backdoored, but he leaves you a whole notebook of instructions and things to do. You just got to get it from somebody's memory. But your stand power coincidentally lets you do exactly that. So after you get it from their memory, now your big bro done left you instructions on how to complete his plan that y'all have been talking about since you was 16, 17, and he was 120 something. Like, it just felt like when you're watching part 6, the amount of times Dio had preemptively saved Pucci's ass just by giving him something, helping him, just pushing along his plan. Whether it be Dio giving Pucci one of his bones, or Dio even giving Pucci Survivor. He gave Pucci Survivor, and giving him Survivor made it harder for everyone else to find and capture Pucci while he was moving around the jail. And that's literally how he ended up getting Foo Fighters. He used his shape-shifting abilities after Foo Fighters ran away. Weather Report was somewhere in the dust. All of that's possible because of Dio. You know, if Dio never gets into Pucci's life, I don't foresee that Pucci ever getting the stand arrow, or the stand arrow ever randomly stabbing him. Because again, that was just perfect timing for Pucci. He needed someone as a mentor after essentially nuking his own life, which he was a kid, but he was also still fucking stupid. You know, sometimes whenever I say Kid Pucci was stupid, everyone's like, oh, well, he was a 16-year-old, he was a 17-year-old. They all make mistakes. Yeah, Pucci, that was just slow. I'm not gonna lie, it was just slow. You know who I was thinking of putting on this list? Doppio and Diablo, but then I was like, I'm not counting that because they're technically two different people in the same body, but you never see them together, so you can't really count it. Anyway, up next we have Johnny and Gyro. Of course, there's a layup of a pick. I had to put them on this list because their dynamic, their friendship throughout part 7 was something to behold and marvel at. They were fantastic friends. Of course, Giorno, he played a friend/mentor role as Johnny was asking to learn how to use the steel balls and how to learn the power of spin. But through it all, if you really go back and reread Steel Ball Run, there are moments such as when they lost everything. I forget what that arc was called. I think it was Sugar Mountain. I think it was a Sugar Mountain arc where they lost everything and all they had was a bottle of wine at the end. And you know what Gyro did? Instead of berating Johnny, being like, oh, we have to restart, we have to do all this, Gyro just sat down and opened up that bottle of wine, and they drunk, and he said a toast, and Johnny said, to what? But that shows how great of a duo they are and how great of friends they are. Only your closest friend will stick with you after you done lost them everything. Now, granted, that is how the stand power worked. Whatever you had to give up and get something new, right? But after you done lost everything, only a real friend's gonna stick by that. Because again, this is the Steel Ball Run race. There are no alliances, there are no teams. Gyro at any point could have just left and kept it pushing. But he stayed with Johnny and they continued on throughout the journey. There's also the iconic jokes, which a lot of people are just waiting to hear come later this year, early next year, whenever the anime comes out. There are just the chemistry that they had, even on the battlefield whenever they fought, it was all just perfect, honestly. That's one of my favorite duos ever in anime. In general, I love them. And is this a little bit of glaze? Yes. See, I don't deny my glaze. I know what I'm doing. But do I feel bad? No. Because Johnny and Gyro were that duo throughout all of part 7. Like, they were that duo to the point where whenever Funny Valentine would see them together, he would make sure that they were broken up before he attacked them. He would make sure that they were not strictly right together before they attacked them. Now, to end it off today, we are going to talk about... gotta go Jolene and Foo Fighters. Got to. If y'all want another video, of course, just let me know, but I gotta go Jolene and Foo Fighters. My whole thing is just simply that they felt like one of the more real duos in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, you know? And that's saying something, because Foo Fighters is literally just a collective of plankton. But they felt like a really real duo because they just felt like a friendship that really just always wanted to have fun. You know, they really didn't take much serious when they were together. Unfortunately, they didn't have that much time together because Poochie got Foo Fighters packed out of there quick. But even in Foo Fighters' last words, she thanked Jolene for everything she did. She thanked Jolene for making her feel like she was an actual real person. She thanked Jolene for the friendship and relentless friendship she showed her even after Foo Fighters had tried to kill her and Hermes. And Jolene even said that we could bring you back. I still have your stand-ins. And Foo Fighters just said, that wouldn't be me though. Because everyone forgot, Foo Fighters is literally just a collective of plankton. That wouldn't be her. It would be a whole new group of like a few thousand plankton. We don't know if they would like Jolene, but Foo Fighters and Jolene felt like a very fun duo with very fun fights. They spent a decent amount of time together, so I feel like I could definitely put them up here. And plus, I feel like with Foo Fighters' last dying words, I definitely could put them up there because, again, one of the most important things that she said was, thank you for making me feel like an actual person. She literally said that, and if she didn't say those exact words, she said something to that extent. Thank you for making me feel like I have friends. Thank you for giving me friends. Thank you for being my friend. You know, all those, it just added to the sentimental value I had for Foo Fighters and Jolene. Of course, that may not be the same for you. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace.
If you clicked this video, it's probably because you love JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but it's definitely also because you saw the title. And you saw the fact that today we are going to talk about some of these JoJo panels out of context. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a ranking, you know, 1 to 10 on how bizarre it is, because yesterday I talked about some bizarre moments. Now I'm going to talk about some bizarre panels, which usually translate to bizarre moments in the anime. But okay, up first we have Emporio yelling while screaming and running away from Father Poochie, saying, I left my gun in the ocean. Now I find this around a 4 on the bizarre scale, only because in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, you see a lot more sinister things than, you know, someone just leaving a gun in the ocean. Especially when it comes to out of context panels. Like, even when I was scrolling through some of the out of context panels on Google, I was like, this one definitely isn't that bad. It gets most of his points mostly because of Emporio's facial expression of pure shock and terror and horror, just being him knowing that he left his gun in the fucking ocean. So knowing that he's damn near defenseless against this all being time accelerating bastard. Up next, it's short and simple, with Giorno saying one important word to part 5 in particular, and part 9, drugs. Yes, this one, it gets a 6 on the bizarre scale, but an 8 on how funny it is and how much it made me laugh. Because the first time I ever saw it, I was literally just like, why is he just saying drugs? Especially because when you see the panel, he looks so serious talking about drugs. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like that shit really fucks with him. I mean, we find out it really does. But like, that panel in particular, when he first starts talking about it for like one of the first times, It had me dead. Now this one's actually a good one. It's when heavy weather was activated and Father Pucci was chilling at home and he was like, oh, if these snails crawl up my arm, I have to kill my brother. Which, out of context, that is a excellent Bizarre panel. I have to give it an 8.5 simply because if someone were to ask what the context of that is, they would have a long story ahead of them. Honestly, any still scene in part 6 is low-key an 8.5. Like when the humans were, their brains were psychologically making them believe that they were turning into snails when in reality they were just chilling. It was dead ass their brain that was fucking with them. Now I just stumbled across a panel I'm not 100% sure it's real or not, but I believe it is just because it's part 8 and part 8 has so many insane panels. To believe something that was said in part 8 wasn't said, you would have a hard time believing most of the dialogue in part 8. But literally all it says is, tell me about your father's asshole. Okay, 10 out of 10 on the bizarre scale. 10 out of 10 on the bizarre scale. You know, it's so bizarre that I question if it's even real. Yeah, that's how bizarre it really is. Cause like I've had my fair share of fan translations, different things, but that right there, yeah, I question if that's real. I have a feeling though, after I post this video in the comments, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, that's real. Of course that's real. Not gonna lie, we may have found the second 10 out of 10 for the day. Okay, it says, I will get into your mouth. It may be today, tomorrow, shit, a week from now. I will wait for the perfect chance. Then I will enjoy your mom. 10 out of 10 on the bizarre scale. Might need a new scale of bizarreness. There might be a panel I see that's so bizarre that's just the level, you know, that's the peak bizarreness that we can get. But this is definitely up there because Angelo, he was tweaking during his like what 2 episode reign, maybe 3 chapter reign. This man was tweaking. He could have just been chilling that whole time, but no, he wants to attack Josuke. That's the exact reason why this man's a rock now. But as far as out of context panels, yeah, that's really bizarre and really odd. Okay, we might have gotten a hat trick. I won't lie. We might have gotten 3 that would just go insane, like bizarre wise. I'm just about to read this out. I'm not reading with no emotion. Just about to just read this, right? More. Get inside me. Get inside me. More. Yell at me more. And then dive down is dead ass just in Yo-Yo Ma's body with an arm and saying, what, this guy's body, it stinks. Listen, I don't think I've ever seen a panel as crazy as that. There are very few panels, as a matter of fact, I've seen with JoJo, especially out of context, that are as crazy as that. But it's nowhere, it's not the most bizarre we've seen today. I don't think it is. So I have to give it like a strong 8.5, maybe a 9. You know, it's up there, but it's not right there. To end it off today, I'm going to briefly talk about a panel that left me speechless. But the thing with this panel is, there's no words. I just have an image to show y'all. Yeah, this looks very wrong. It looks very wrong, as a matter of fact. But on the bizarre scale, it is a 10 out of 10. Just for the way it looks. But if y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on a road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time. JoJolion might be the most interesting and unique part in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, just for everything it introduced and all the topics it expanded on. And today I want to talk about one of the specific things they introduced, which was rock humans, and by extension the rock disease that affected the Hokagekhi bloodline and the Joestar bloodline. Now, seeing this curse for the first time, and the first time I read JoJolion, I was very perplexed. Honestly, I didn't understand it. I couldn't get my head wrapped around it that well. And once I did, because eventually as the narrative played out, a lot of things became a lot more clear. But once I did, I thought it was just one of the most evil curses you could probably get. Imagine being born into a family, and because of the time you were born and how many children are in the family, you're fucking cooked. You're cooked. You have a disease at 10, and someone is going to have to sacrifice themselves to save you. Somebody. Now that's going to be on your conscience all the time, and you're going to have to do that to probably your child one day in the future. Do you know how awful that is? Like, you fucked up and decided to be the eldest, and now if you're a man, you have until 10, and if you're a woman, you don't even fucking know. You don't know when you're going to get it, because Rina Higashikata got in her 20s. You don't know. It could be 10, 15, 18, 23, 25. You don't know. But in this description, it says the bodies of those who suffer from this disease are known to begin to harden like rock beginning at the age of 10. As symptoms progress, the victim loses more and more of their functions and memories until they eventually die. And it's a slow death. Slow, painful death. Now, the earliest chronological example we got is when Johnny Joestar's wife, Rina Higashikata, had caught the disease, and he went to go steal the Saint's corpse to transfer off of her, only for it to then transfer to their son, where he then transferred it to himself and died, or got crushed by a stand. That's literally a stand owned by the road, but he still died. Now, in the part 8 story, the Higashikata curse is used a fair amount, but it's used really to manipulate the eldest son, Suguri, because the first time we see him, he was used to set a trap for Josuke Higashikata, so one of the rock human could find out what he was about and why he was there. And if I remember correctly, all of the rock human were looking for Yoshikage Kira, because they thought this nigga was still alive, so yeah, once they saw a nigga in a sailor outfit, same clothes Kira usually be wearing, in the same town Kira usually is, with his sister in the same town and his mother in the hospital in the same town, of course they're going to start chasing that nigga around town. But after that, it's then talked about that the Lquadra fruit apparently has the ability to cure the rock disease, as we saw with the dog. What's his name? Awasuke. And as the part continued, I can only feel worse for Tsurugi, because he was getting manipulated by his own fucking father. But his father was Jobin Higashikata, so he probably should have seen that coming. I'm sorry. Once he figured out his father was in some shady business with Josuke and Yasho, he should have known. I mean, he was 10 and his body was about to start hardening and stuff, which is what eventually started happening. Once he turned 10, his body started hardening, and all those symptoms I was mentioning earlier, yeah, they hit him like a fucking brick truck. I think it was a few panels later, this man was almost rock frozen. I was like, oh, is he okay? I didn't know it took place this fast. But before the disease could fully get him, Kaido trapped him with her ability to stop the disease for the time being, and used the new Lquadra to transfer Tsurugi's disease onto Toru, therefore giving him the rock disease and eventually killing him, which was how we finally got rid of that annoying ass nigga. I'm sorry, I don't like Toru. He's annoying. Not gonna lie, he still is cool-ish, but he's still annoying. But he did one good thing, which was take that rock disease, therefore finally ending the Higashikata curse, because they didn't have to transfer the rock disease to a random family member. Wait, I got that wrong. It's not because they transferred it not to a family member. I just remember Jobin transferred it to his fucking bully. It's because Yoshikage Kira and Josufumi Kujo, their combined efforts were enough to make a new Rokakaka branch, therefore allowing a disease to be transferred to another person through equivalent exchange. And that was finally the end of this super long history of the Higashikata curse. They had like a century plus of that shit. Imagine every 15-20 years as new generations are coming out, y'all got to plan for who's going to be the uncle or auntie that sacrifices this time. That would be genuinely awful. I know every time I would say not it. I would be trying to skirt the lines every single time. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Incest is bad. It's a very, very, very bad thing. But for some reason, within the JoJo community, some fans think it's okay. Or even think it's passable. Because today, I've already talked about people in the JoJo community shipping adults and minors, which happens throughout the anime community. And this same thing happens throughout the anime community too. People shipping families. But I want to talk about JoJo's in specific, because some of them make stupid reasons for why it's okay. Reason number one I've heard is people will say, oh, they aren't that related. For example, when someone ships Jolene and Gyro. That's still disgusting. I'm sorry, it is, and there's nothing that you can say that will change it. And as a matter of fact, I'm not sorry, because someone needs to berate you, disgusting, degenerate, inside the house, bitch ass niggas. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can do what you want, ship who you want, as long as it's legal. That's always been my rule. But why are you shipping fucking siblings? Like, I've even had to, on TikTok, I've had to talk about it multiple times, where people will start fucking shipping Gyro and Jolene, Josuke and Jotaro and Joseph. What are you doing? A grandfather and his grandson, an uncle and a nephew, a great uncle and his great niece. That's disgusting. You know, it's even low-key extended to the new alternate universe, but instead they'll like ship alternate parts together. You know what I mean? Like Johnny and Jonathan. It's all wrong. Like, in all honesty, it's just completely wrong. Why? What causes one to think in their mind and be like, today I want incest? That's crazy, especially in a manga like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, a manga about family and the inherited will transporting to the next generation as the parts continue. Their wills do not need to be together or inside each other. That's disgusting. And it would still be disgusting if it was any other anime family. Because I know y'all ship anime families. I've seen very, very, very weird people on the internet. Like, y'all aren't slick. Especially when there's over 1,000 chapters and there are various amounts of characters upon characters upon characters that you could pick from, that you could play any of the Joestars with. Various. That are even around the same age. You know, even when there are young Joestars like Gyro, there's someone like Trish who's 16, I think. And even if you don't ship them together, that was just an example of people around the same age. I'm just saying, you can pick people who aren't relatives, whether it be distant family members or just regular plain old relatives. You know, a lot of people, including myself, would rather you do that than pick some random distant relative, because that's wrong. It's wrong. Josuke x Jolene. How about you x jail x now? But really, that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Fate is a reoccurring theme in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, to the point where it is the most reoccurring theme that you could see an example from the first episode all the way to the latest chapter of JoJo Lands. And in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Fate comes in very different ways. There are mechanisms, there's flow, there's happiness, all of those things that we will touch on and talk once we get to that point in this video. And while it can be argued which universe Fate is more prominent in my personal opinion, it's parts 1 through 6. You can see it so prominent in part 1, part 3, part 5, part 6 that it's actually ridiculous. Hell, in part 6 you could even guess that Fate actually does favor the side of justice just a little bit more, even though it appears that it doesn't most of the time within the series, because a lot of the time it really does not appear Fate favors justice. But before I fully begin, I want to talk about shortly the creation of Fate within the Hirohiko Araki doesn't believe in God, but he harbors a belief that there is some kind of overreaching force, including the concept of fate. By extension, Araki believes that tackling subjects such as fate in his works through proxies such as bloodlines is what gives them meaning. Araki also thinks similarly of other works from the book to Spider-Man addressing the presence of destiny. Nonetheless, he considers such factors to be inevitable in the realm of manga, being determined by the circumstances of the work. However, Araki also believes that being unable to escape one's fate is more terrifying than death itself. As such, he greatly admires and aims to write characters who move forward without consideration for fate, indirectly confronting and surpassing it in the process. To Araki, the ability to move forward and carve out one's own fate is the greatness of humanity that he aims to celebrate in his manga. Now, if you want to know where I read all this from, you can go to the JoJo Wiki, where it has his own mangas and Destiny. And that's why throughout JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, I think Fate is mentioned so much, because Kira mentions it, Diablo mentions it, you got Rolling Stones, you got Emporio mentioning Will and Destiny at the end of part 6 when he was talking to Poochie, and Poochie, Dio, all these characters literally spent a lot of time talking and mentioning fate. They're fated, it's their destiny to do this, to be this, to overcome this. I feel like that might be a part of the reason why I love JoJo so much, is the use of fate, because I'm not going to say not many other mangas use the use of fate, because that would just be a blatant, plain lie, but not that many mangas use it in so many different ways, to the point where there are whole mechanisms created completely around fate and calamity and destiny and all those things. We demonstrated several times throughout the series. Rolling Stones is directly stated to draw its energy directly from the power of fate. Individuals such as Tom Petty, who are able to predict events that will occur in the near future with certainty, but with the caveat that said events cannot be altered in any way, only misunderstood. Even in King Crimson's case, events only can be removed entirely by erasing the period of time in which they occur. However, these and other powers that reshape fate are also accounted for by fate in general. As such, only further play into its goals. Certain patterns are identified within the story about fate. The foremost example of these patterns is the idea of gravity between certain people that are fated to meet each other. According to Hazamada, such a force acts on all stand users, guiding them to meet each other either as friends or foe. Enrico Pucci devoted himself to this idea, using it to justify various phenomena that aid him in his goals. Ultimately, though, the literal force of gravity is what allows Pucci to complete his stand ability. Emporio cites that very same gravity when explaining the priest's defeat. Which, now that I'm reading this, and actually doing some research on this is actually a thought I would never really thought about. I wasn't thinking about the fact of how much Pucci talked about gravity, how much gravity was so integral to Pucci's character, and how it did kind of end up being gravity can be exploited in the patterns to infer what the results and resolutions would be. Examples range from prophecies such as the Redstone of Aija being necessary to defeat the Pillarmen, to fortune telling performed by Wang Chan Muhammad Abdul, and others. For example, Wayne Chan predicts that Dio won't be caught by the police in the Joestar mansion because he was born with impenetrable luck. Individuals such as Yoshikage Kira and Diablo may also develop the idea that they are favored by fate, though such beliefs are guaranteed not to be accurate. Are not guaranteed to be accurate, but I mean, it wasn't accurate for either of them. Okay, there are 4 forces I'm going to be talking about that are vessels of fate, that are related phenomena to fate. Feng Shui is a form of fortune telling and operates on the idea that energy is shaped by the environment, and the flow of that energy bestows luck or misfortune onto certain areas. For instance, houses built in an unlucky area negatively impact the lives of their tenants, and castles built during wartime would commonly have shrines built in unlucky areas to reduce their vulnerability. Feng Shui is inevitable, and habits cannot avoid misfortune. And if you don't remember who had it, it was Kenzo and Dragon's Dream, and he got lucky by standing in the right place in a lucky area during a massive cult death, and he was the only person from his cult to actually survive. Up next, we have happiness. Within the world, there is a balance of fortune and misfortune such that the two level out. Overall, the Saint's corpse, when fully assembled, is able to manipulate that fortune by repelling misfortune from itself and its owner, leaving only good fortune and a state of happiness around both. The only known exception to this principle is the law of gravity. As such, it can be overcome by gravity such as that created by 2 of the same person from parallel worlds existing in the same world, or bypassed entirely by beings of infinite energy like Ballbreaker and Tusk Act 4. Up next, we have flow / calamity. Nurisuke Higashikata IV believes that there is a flow or natural path for everything in life, even a simple fruit parlor, and that determining and accepting it is sure to lead one to their goal. This idea is later extended by a natural law called calamity, which functions as the basis behind Wonder Review Toru's stand. Calamity is an unavoidable negative energy that causes unfortunate events to occur as part of flows. In its natural state, it affects people at random, regardless of morality or circumstance, and regardless of whether they've made any changes or accepted the flows of things. The law of calamity can manifest grievous misfortunes via any means necessary. For instance, calamity causes raindrops to pierce Josuke Higashikata, giving him near lethal wounds. And finally, mechanisms. They are a concept in the JoJo lands proposed by JoJo Joestar. Mechanisms are natural principles of the world that control the direction in which aspects such as wealth, security, and power are transferred. Similar to flows, unlike flows, however, JoJo perceives mechanisms as a kind of hierarchy, atop which lies an apex that controls the entire ecosystem. In this apex, mechanisms that JoJo hopes to seize for his own game, especially after discovering a strange lava rock and the mechanism that attracts wealth to it. And if I'm being honest with mechanisms, I'm very, very excited to see where it goes, how far it goes, and if the main villain is going to be the person at the top of that apex controlling the entire ecosystem, because I need to see that, in all honesty. When we hit like Fate and flows and all that with Hirohiko Araki, he just doesn't miss. Fate is probably my favorite portion of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures just because of how nuanced and spread out and really unimaginable and unreasonable it is. There's no rhyme or reason to why it does what it does. It just does what it does with no explanations. And most of the time it moves like a wave. Yes, you can try to manipulate the wave, or you're just going to go against the current. Either way, it's going to be a tough fucking time. But really, that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. Life must be fucking sweet as a Golden Wind fan or a Stardust Crusaders fan. Or really, no, just those two parts. Because if you're not, you gotta scrounge and scrap for merchandise unless you're a fucking Rohan fan. Which, Rohan has fans, but they aren't as many as Part 4 fans. No matter how much Araki tries to tell us, oh yeah, Rohan's the most popular side character I got. No, he's not. He may be now simply because of all the short stories and side stories he gets, but for a long time, Rohan was not the most popular side character. He's barely it now. I don't even want to call him that right now. I'm just giving it to him. But the point of this video is just the fact that certain JoJo parts get so much merch while others are so neglected. It's like looking in the wild wild west trying to get some fucking merch. Besides the manga, which all parts 1 through 6 all the way to now 7 have all volumes, which is great. That's fantastic. I don't got all the volumes yet, but like I'm getting closer. Other than that, you're either finding overpriced merch for most of the parts or figures, because the good thing is every JoJo part has figures. It just may not be figures of characters you want. In all honesty, I may have talked about this before, how much I dislike the disproportionate amount of merch that all the other parts get besides Golden Wind and Part 3, just because they're the top 2 most popular parts and they're the most popular animated parts. Like, for example, how often do you think do you see a strictly Part 6 Stone Ocean drop post Stone Ocean being airing? I've seen at least 5 to 6 Golden Wind drops in the past year and a half of merch just for Golden Wind. Hell, Golden Wind just got a whole horde of fucking short stories, you know, and I can't really complain too much, but I still can, because you got parts like Part 1 and Part 2, almost no side stories. You got Part 7, Part 8, again, no side stories, but Part 4, 5, Part 3, those 3 parts have a lot of side stories. Now granted, let me not be like that. I'm sure there are some fan-made spin-offs for the other parts, but I'm just saying, you know, it's clear what parts Araki is trying to take care of. If you're a fan of like one of the parts in the 3 to 5 range, you're good, you know, even Part 4, because you can nitpick and be like, oh, but this character doesn't get that much merch for Part 4, but then you gotta look at the whole part and realize Part 4 gets a lot of merch, like a lot of merch. I've seen a really good amount of Part 4 merch. Now granted, was half of it Rohan Kishibe merch? Yeah, around half was Rohan Kishibe merch, but that's to be expected when Rohan Kishibe is the manga artist's self-insert, and the manga artist just cannot stop drawing Rohan Kishibe, whether that be in the original universe, alternate universe, side stories, spin-offs, like fuck. But at least Part 4 is not like most of the other parts. You look at, again, I'm gonna keep going to fucking Part 6, because again, you look at most of the cast in Part 6, they have no merch. Why does Anasui not have that much merch? Why does Anasui barely have merch? Why does Emporio, of all people, barely have merch? You know what I mean? Why does Hermes not have that much merch? All you're finding for real is Jolene, Weather Report, Poochie, and Part 6 Jotaro merch. And Part 6 Jotaro is if you're lucky. I couldn't imagine being like a diehard Part 1 fan and just knowing that there's no merch out there for me. You know, besides maybe a poster. And you know what poster I'm talking about too. Like everyone knows what poster I'm talking about when I'm talking about the Phantom Blood poster. Like, in all honesty, it just worries me for when we get to Part 8. Because let me only see Josuke and Wonder of You merch with the slightest little bit of Jobin merch. Oh yeah, I'm getting really angry. I'm getting really angry. Part 8 was so good. I'm pretty sure by the time it gets animated, I need a plant appraiser figure front and center right here. But you know, part of what probably surged me to make this is like when I kept seeing the fucking Golden Wind merch that started coming out, like not the Golden Wind merch, the Golden Wind cologne that started coming out, you know. And then I started seeing some characters from Part 2 get cologne. I'm pretty sure Lisa got perfume and Joseph got cologne or something like that. I kept seeing that. I was like, you know what, something's gotta change. Like genuinely, imagine you're just finished the whole series. You read the entire series front to back. You know, you're all the way caught up on part 9. You start reading some side stories. You know, you're real life a diehard JoJo fan. And one of your favorite characters is a character from part 2. And your favorite character ends up being one of the guards Lisa has in part 2. Look me in my eyes and tell me you think there's merch for that nigga. Besides maybe a figure. If you need an answer to that, it's probably no. Because if I look them up, I promise you all I'm probably going to see is maybe one of the mini figures. And that's it. No further merch, no further explanation, no nothing. And for a series as big as JoJo's, I would just expect a little bit more merch for a little bit broader parts other than part 5 and part 3. Cause I promise you, you look up JoJo merch, the first thing that's going to pop up is just a bunch of part 3 and part 5 merch. You might see a bunch of JoJo's hats, something like that. But really, that's all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K. We just hit 3K. That's a big milestone. So until next time, peace. There are very few statements I regard as true within this life. Very few. You're guaranteed to be born. I mean, if you're watching this right now, you were born. You're guaranteed to have to pay taxes. Like, as soon as you turn 18, the IRS do not play about that. And you're guaranteed to have JoJo's Bizarre Adventures weekly. But that last part was taken away from us by Netflix because they decided to release the anime that was streaming weekly in Japan. They decided to release the Stone Ocean anime in batches. Now, I'm not somebody who cares a lot about the hype. I really don't. But I am someone who wants to get that first time feel, that first time enjoyment. And there's no better feeling to a first time enjoyment than watching it weekly. I don't care if by that point I had already read the Stone Ocean manga. I don't. You know why? I wanted the experience of seeing it weekly and pretending like I do not remember what is going to happen next. Because come on, let's be honest. Let's be real, right? I wouldn't have remembered everything that would have happened next, even though I just read the manga a few months ago at that point. But it would have been more enjoyable for me to have to guess what's going to happen next, especially in parts I don't remember, like most of the middle of the arc, except the Jailhouse Lock arc. I love that arc for whatever reason. I think I just like the beat down Jolene put on Mimi. Like, but all of that, it leads to what I'm talking about today, or it leads into, it's like a nice segue straight into part 7, because the last time we had a JoJo's part, it was released in batches, and the fan base right now is clamoring, hoping, praying that Netflix does not get the distribution rights and anyone else gets it, so that it's released weekly. Because let's be honest, you don't want to watch Steel Ball Run in batches. That's the exact reason this video is titled what it's titled. Make Steel Ball Run weekly, please. Because bro, I don't know how much longer I can sit through getting 13 episodes than going ghost for 9 months to a year before we get the next 13. I would actually start tweaking out at David Productions, Hirohiko Araki, the official JoJo website, Warner Bros, because y'all aren't safe. And if y'all keep claiming my videos, I'm gonna come for y'all. Like, genuinely, maybe I'll give them this. Maybe for Netflix it was a little bit more understanding in 2021, because again, they were just dipping their toes into anime for real. They weren't really all the way fully immersed. They were just getting into it a little bit. So them getting JoJo's, the rights for JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, was a big shock around the community. And of course they didn't know what the fuck they were doing with an anime that big. But now they have literally the biggest anime worldwide on their shit. Not only on their shit, they are streaming the episodes that are coming weekly from Japan. Weekly, they're streaming Egghead, the Egghead arc weekly. There's no reason
for them not to stream Still Ball Run weekly. They're streaming Dan to Dan weekly. There's no reason for them not to still stream Still Ball Run weekly, except that they are lazy. That is the only explanation. They want more money. That's it. The only thing I'm worried about when it comes to Still Ball Run is maybe the toxic fan base that's going to come along with it. But at this point, it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. When was our fan base not toxic? And for two, every popular anime gets a weird fan base surrounding it. It's like inevitable at this point. Honestly, you can't name me a popular anime that doesn't have a shitty fan base with it. Like, that's just hand in hand. And really, this video comes off the back of the news that apparently in Japan by June 30th, I want to say, parts 1 through 5 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures will be gone. Only part that will be up there is part 6. Only Sonos will be up there. So people were speculating. They're like, oh, maybe Netflix isn't going to get the rights to JoJo's. Maybe Netflix isn't going to get it. And in all honesty, I hope they don't. Even though I had a little segment of a little bit of optimism, I really hope they don't. Because Stone Ocean pissed me off so bad. Because why am I waiting a year, damn near 2 years, just to get this shit done? Oh my god. And no JoJo Fridays? Are you kidding me? But in all honesty, if I had to choose a distribution company to get JoJo's, I guess it would be Crunchyroll. You know, Funimation doesn't really exist anymore. That Crunchyroll merger was very interesting, but at the same time, I'm okay with Crunchyroll getting it because I know then it's only gonna be weekly. There's no chance we're ever getting batches because Crunchyroll wouldn't do that, especially to an anime as popular as Still Ball Run. Like, I'm still so annoyed from Netflix giving us batches, and it's not because of the fucking hype. It's simply just because, why can't you just air it weekly? Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, bro, that's really all I got. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. As recently as a few months ago, Hirohiko Araki has spoken about his thoughts on the usage of AI and how much he fucking dislikes it. This interview I'm about to read y'all, which is a pretty long excerpt, took place last November 2024, and he was asked about con artists, and he started talking and rambling about AI. Where straight from his new manga techniques book, he says these words: speaking about societal evils, I think as AI continues to spread through society, we're going to see an increasingly shady world filled with scammers exploiting it. Recently, I've came across a drawing and thought, this is something I drew, right? I was shocked to find out it was actually created by AI. When I draw mangas, I add subtle personal elements that make the work uniquely mine. But this AI generated piece even mimicked details like the way I draw eyelashes so precisely that it was almost impossible to tell apart from my work. If it were based on recent drawings, I'd know right away, no, I didn't draw this. On the other hand, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference if it were done with my art from about 10 years ago, when my memory of it would be a little hazy. As the more AI involves, the more the kind of thing will happen. Art reflects the times, and manga is one example of that. Seeing this world of con artists appear in manga could very well mean that we're headed for a future world dominated by fraudsters. The type of evil in today's age will undoubtedly end up impacting manga down the line. Now, I want to pause right here because those were the first 2 paragraphs of this 3 long paragraphs of everything he said about AI. But in those first 2 paragraphs, you can see the passion oozing out of Hirohiko Araki as AI is currently encroaching on a field that he's dominated for the past 40 years. He's been within this field for the past 40 years, and with the use of AI and it becoming so apparent, and as it's getting better, it's only just getting better on drawings and manga and anime, and these big greedy companies are very eager to let AI in. I know it was some big AI agreement reached between like Sony,
Shidida. It was someone else. But just saying that they're gonna add AI to all these different animes and just allowing AI to be within those animes, I think that's a detriment to the future of anime. I think it would really disproportionately affect it, because if I'm being honest, we already only have about 30% of animes that are actually good. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the entire scale. I'm not talking about a specific genre. I'm talking about the entire scale. Because a lot of animes that are pushed out, and it's always been this way, a lot of animes that are pushed out just suck. And they get canceled really fast. But if AI continues to dominate in the future, I could see that scale of how many good animes we have just continue to dwindle down until we're left with like 5% of animes actually being good. You know what I mean? Or actually having like a really good plot driven story that doesn't take all the generic basics from every other series that's been created. In Hirohiko Araki's last paragraph, he says copyright infringement by AI is also a villain, but we manga artists must face the extreme scenario that AI generated fakes might be accepted as the real thing. And even as we try to protect our work, these counterfeits are becoming so accurate and sophisticated, it's no longer a fight an individual can win. Having some kind of laws would probably be the only way to regulate this. However, because we are dealing with a world of con artists, there is also a very real possibility that laws favoring them will appear before we know it. Personally, I entrust my copyright management to Sharisha, which was another big company in that AI scam I was literally just talking about. But some manga artists are lax in managing their copyright, leading to others using their artwork without permission, or even leaking original drawings. When I see that, I worry that they might face serious trouble down the line if they don't take it more seriously. And even though Hirohiko Araki said this only short months ago, probably about 6 months now since he said in November, things have been changing at a rapid pace, and AI has only continued to get better. Some of you may have seen the Google AI stuff that has been going on, where the AI actually looks close to really real life, you know, to the point where now you really got to look and check and make sure you see all the indifferences and things with it. But I say this because a recent development actually hit the JoJo community. The composer of the Thus Spoke Ron Kishibe TV show, TV drama, and movie said that he used strictly AI music, you know. And the reason I even wanted to bring this up in this video, and really this is the last point I got, but the reason I even wanted to bring this up in this video is because, like, him using AI music after reading you that excerpt, that paragraphs on paragraphs long of Araki just stating this is a danger, there should be laws put against it, and there's nothing he can really do. Seeing that is just so disheartening. Knowing that this manga artist who spoke up about not wanting AI to be used within his content at all, and not really liking generative AI in the slightest, to see this AI still be used in his live action show. Granted, it's not his manga, it's not his anime, it's not generative AI, but it's still AI just used to make music from a composer whose whole job is to make music. What is even is your job at that point? Just putting in a prompt and getting the desired results? I don't know. I just thought it was interesting to have Hirohiko Araki have this such a strong stance against AI, but it also makes sense because he's a really truly unique artist and a true artist who wants everything done pen to paper, or I think he does some digital now, but he still does a lot pen to paper. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. All right, y'all, on September 25th we will be getting a new JoJo's Bizarre Adventures game, but hold your horses. Before you get excited, it is literally just for iOS and Android. Now, this announcement came a few days ago, and I meant to make this video probably a few days ago, and this video is probably going to come out a few days after I make this video. But either way, I'm making it just to let y'all know we are going to have a new mobile game that looks like it's pay to win. The trailers already came out. It actually looks decent. I wasn't expecting it to look like that. I thought it was going to be even more card game like, because I'm pretty sure it already has a lot of card game elements, but I thought it was going to be even more card game like. But I actually do enjoy it. You know, from what I've seen, it looks like something I would enjoy. I think right now you can get waitlisted, but my whole thing is, because when I made this video, put it on TikTok, a lot of people were like, oh, they couldn't get waitlisted in their country yet, and they were like, oh, they hope it's not JP exclusive, which me too. Honestly, a lot of JoJo games have just ended up being JP exclusive, so I hope this one doesn't follow that factor. But I do feel like it's going to be a good game. I won't lie, some of the models do look reused from that was it a Diamond is Unbreakable game? It was some type of game that had 3D models. I mean, how mad can you be about reused models? You know what I mean? Eyes of Heaven and both All-Star Battle are use the same models, same maps, basically the same interface, just different game. One was more open world, the other one was literally just an arcade game, you know. And plus it is a mobile game too, so you don't know how much effort they're really going to put into this. But I have to say, it does look like it's at least interesting. It looks like it's something at least worth buying, you know, because it's free. And on top of that, something I did not mention is the fact that it has side villains that you just wouldn't expect to be in there. Like, I saw this screenshot from the game. I'm like, Straight Zo's in the game? Straight Zo? The same guy who appeared in probably 2 episodes, 3 episodes, literally the last 2 of part 1, then the literal first and second episode of part 2. He's in the game. He's a side villain. I'm pretty sure he has his own stage or something. That's crazy. So that gives me hope that at least they're putting characters that not everyone already knows / have had in every other JoJo game. You know, I don't have a problem with those characters being in there because they're a crucial part of JoJo. But I do feel like you should put more side characters in the game. That's why this mobile game is called JoJo's Bizarre Adventures Overdrive. Wait, no, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures or Overdrive. This game does look good. It does. For a mobile game, it looks like something that I will be spending my money on. Like, if it's pay to win, I might go broke. Hey man, if y'all see like 7 YouTube videos a day come up here, just don't even worry about it. Don't even ask questions, because it actually looks than I would spend my time on. You know, most mobile games, especially anime mobile games, they don't move me. This one, it moves me about this much. But it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and that's one of my favorite animes of all time, so I'm only about this much. So I will get it. I'll try it, but like, if it's not good, I'll let y'all know if it's not good. But my prediction is probably it's gonna be better off rip, just because they have side villains in it and the gameplay doesn't look too clunky or too bad or too much just like, okay, now I'm about to get off the game. The only thing that will probably kill me is if they do like a lot of other games do, which is, for one, you need internet to hop on the game slow, and for 2, you keep getting ads every 5 seconds. That's almost any mobile game, but like, especially with the internet games. But other than that, I see nothing but success coming this way for the game. Now, do I see it leaving Japan? That's also another question. It's like 50-50, I'm not gonna lie. If it leaves Japan, I would be somewhat surprised, because again, a lot of things just don't, especially anime related, never leave Japan. Like, they just never, because they're not doing no exhibits in fucking California, USA. I mean, some are, depending on the anime, but most aren't. But I don't know, it just would make sense just to release it worldwide. You know, it's already coming out somewhat alongside the release of Steel Ball Run. We don't know what month Steel Ball Run's coming out, or if it's coming out this year, but we do know it's coming out, so there's that. But that's really all I got for y'all today. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. JoJo's Bizarre Adventures is an anime that contains a lot of weird things, and today I want to expand on some of those weird things because I've already made a video talking about some of the panels out of context, but today I want to talk about some more because there's always wild JoJo panels. And starting off first, we have when Bruno Bucciarati licked Giorno Giovanna and said, "That's the taste of a liar." I'm not gonna lie, that was insane. My first time watching it, well, technically the first time I ever saw it was when part 5 came out in 2018, but like I didn't watch JoJo's. I just saw it. I was like, oh, why is he licking him? What the fuck is going on? But even with context, it doesn't make it that much better. He does it so much out of left field. You're just like, oh, where did you come from with that? Up next, we have this post of McQueen just rambling about Hermes asking him if he was okay after she found him basically almost halfway dead, committing suicide. Yeah, this one was definitely another one that caught me off guard. With JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, you always got to stay on your toes, but I just wasn't that episode because I was just like, what Stan idea could Araki be thinking of? Then we got Highway to Hell, and I was like, oh, that's nice. Oh, if I kill myself, you're dying with me. That's even better. Like, he literally says, I've never had a heart-to-heart with a woman before. Are you okay? What a wonderful phrase, filled with care. Wrap it up, buddy. She just thought you kicked the bucket, literally. Then 5 minutes later, guess what you did? You kicked the bucket. White Snake with a gun is one of my favorite JoJo images ever. Cause like the first time I ever saw it, I was just like, okay, why does he have a gun? Because I was thinking about it, I've never seen a sentient Stan just randomly pick up an actual weapon. You know what I mean? Like, unless the weapon came with the Stan, White Snake do not have a gun built into him. He be picking up guns dead ass just off of security guards and police officers after they die. Are you kidding me? I'm not gonna lie, I low-key forgot I was supposed to be rating these. So the first one was about like a 7 out of 10. No, on the bizarre scale, it was about an 8.5 out of 10. Bruno licking Giorno was very bizarre. McQueen, 6 out of 10, because it's JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. That the way he was talking wasn't that weird. I've seen worse. But with this one right here, White Snake, 10 out of 10. 10 on the bizarre scale and 10 on my enjoyment, because man, it was hella funny just watching White Snake just point a gun at a piston in the sky as a stand. Why do you have that? Poochie didn't even do. Up next, we got the Mona Lisa panel, and if you don't know what that panel is, you obviously forgot about part 4, because that was probably my personal most iconic panel from part 4, just because of how ridiculous it was. This man got his first boner at like 8 or 9 due to the hands of Mona Lisa. He literally mentioned, oh yeah, her hands, they were on her knees. Oh, what are you talking about? This is and has been genuinely one of the wildest things I've seen just in recent anime times, as far as like animated moments. Anime gets real wicked sometimes, but that was really wicked. I'm not gonna lie. Telling this random person you don't know about your backstory on how you got your first boner and how your hand fetish came to be is ridiculous. 10 out of 10 on the bizarre scale. This one with Dr. Ferdinand talking about dinosaurs and how they did not have enough respect to survive the asteroid attacks on the Earth millions of years ago. Yeah, they didn't have enough respect. This one, it's not that bizarre, it's really just funny, because what the fuck are you talking about? These are the same beings that cannot, as far as we know, cannot communicate unless they can communicate with each other. And the way they communicated with each other was very simple. Nigga, get the fuck out of my way before I get this food. How you gonna be mad at prehistoric chickens acting like prehistoric chickens?
Like, that's literally, I can't get mad at them, you know what I mean? But this is a funny panel. It's like a 5 out of 10 on the bizarre scale. Now, the last panel we're looking at is from part 4 again, and it's another Josuke panel where I think it was after he caught, it was the aqua stand, it was the water stand. He had swallowed a latex glove, as we can see. Yeah. This is very bizarre, I'm not gonna lie. It's very odd. It's very weird. Like, with no context, just imagine and ask yourself, what is he doing swallowing a latex glove down his throat just so he can catch it? Catch what? What are you catching? What? He said just in case he was able to get inside of me. Yeah, this is like a 9 out of 10 on the bizarre scale. You know. At least a 9 out of 10 on the bizarre scale. Out of context, yes, it's a 9 out of 10. But that's really all I got for y'all. If y'all enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace. I am going to lose my fucking mind waiting for Steel Ball Run. Do you not hear me? I will... I'll call you back. As you, me, and the 45-year-old corpse that has been following JoJo's Bizarre Adventures since it came out in Shonen Jump in manga 40 years ago, we are all waiting for Steel Ball Run. We are all hoping that it comes out on September 23rd. Me personally, I'm calling it right here. I'm calling my shot. It definitely is. But while we wait, why don't I talk about something that has been on my mind for a very, very long time? I've just never gotten around to talking about it. I actually made a video on whether I should talk about that today or about funny animes. Everyone said they wanted Funny Valentine and American imperialism, so we'll go with that. I love Funny Valentine's character. And yes, this may come as a surprise for some of you that are coming straight over from my TikTok to my YouTube. But yes, I do love Funny Valentine's character. I just dog on him sometimes because, again, he's a pedophile. I'm sorry, I dog on pedophiles. That's just it. That's like the #1 pastime I like to do. But his character is so diverse and interesting. He lures you in with his words, his charm, and his confidence just to show you who he really is through his actions and what he does. It was proved with that as far as who he really is through his actions when you look at the final bit between him versus Johnny. He spent at least, I don't know how long it was in canon, but it felt like 10-15 minutes trying to convince Johnny, hey, don't kill me. I won't touch you if I get out of here. I am the president of the United States. I'll let you go. You know, I'll let you have the Saints corpse. I just want to do what's best for my people. Then when Johnny tossed him the gun and said, hey, pick it up, because Johnny knew if he picked it up, it would kill him because he already had a duplicate gun from another world. Funny Valentine tried to shoot him. And I feel like that scene perfectly encapsulates his character. He was someone who lied through his words, but the truth was completely shown through his actions. And that's what leads into this bit about American imperialism I really want to talk about. Funny Valentine, through his words, says a lot of the times, I want America to be great. I want it to be the best nation. I want it to be the best. But what he really means is that he wants it as the concept and not as the people. Because you see through the way he treats his, I guess, subordinates. He was throwing people out there without a care in the world. But he was the same guy who was like, he wants a better life for all Americans. He wants Americans in America to live in a state where all of their misfortune would befall onto some other country, which again is that's literally imperialism. What the fuck? And he even said he wanted to create a tier system to where America, they are essentially dominating the world and have say so in almost every country for politics, culture, basically anything. And anything that they do that's bad essentially would never fall on them. It would always fall on some other random third world country. We see that represented through his power D4C. When he activates Love Train, Johnny cannot hit him unless he has Tusk Act 4, because if he shoots a bullet at him, you know where it goes? To some random person in some random universe. So the misfortune is not befalling Funny Valentine, and in this case it's not befalling America. It's falling some third world farmer and some third world country to be even more in shit and pain. Another example with Funny Valentine not really giving a fuck about the average American is literally look at the train scene. He started torturing a random American conductor to do his bidding, then toss him aside like garbage when he wasn't needed. This is how he sees low-class people. You look at how he talked about Diego. He saw Diego as a low-class peasant scum. Those are words that damn near came out of his mouth. I may be paraphrasing a little bit. If I can find the exact panel, I will. But his whole character, his whole theme of being patriotic, yes, he is very patriotic, but he's patriotic in a way where he has a lot of un-American ideals. You know what I mean? Or traditional un-American ideals. He wants the Saints Corps so America will be on top, but while making America on top, he wants to make it into an empire. He wants to change it from something that is a democracy, that is very people oriented, that is very lower class oriented. At least I'm not saying this is current America or even America at any point. I'm just saying this is what America was built on, and this is what the politicians try to tell you that's what they want. And that's what he probably said to Americans when he was running in the race. He wants a patriotic, democracy. He wants all that. But we see through his actions and through his words when he's alone, he really wants an empire where America's at the top and everyone else is below them. Everyone else pays to America. Everyone else's misfortune never hits America. It just hits them. Like, that's a part of the reason I feel character is so great, and it makes so much sense for him to be a politician. You know, it makes 100% sense for him to be a politician. Politicians are very known to be charismatic, known to be liars, known to say whatever sounds nice enough to get what they need. That's exactly who he is. And his viewpoints, though he believes them to be very patriotic, very much for the American people, it's really just the viewpoints of someone who is a fascist, of someone who is a monarch, of someone who is basically an imperialist, because again, he wants to steal those resources. He doesn't want those lower class people to have anything. He doesn't want anyone else to have anything, really. I mean, hell, I still remember when I was reading it was right before the him and Lucy scene, where he was starting to and that's a whole different thing, but he was starting to sexually assault her, and he said something like, oh, let's make more kids so I can have more heirs to the throne. What do you mean more heirs to the throne? You're the president. The president only lasts 4 years. But that was never his point. That was never his plan. His plan was to push people up to a point where they loved him so much they would never want to see him leave. And if you look at in Steel Ball Run, you look at his approval rate, that was at the point he was at 90-something% approval rate. He was at the point where he just needed one more thing to turn America fully from a representative democracy to a monarch with him as the king, or him at the helm. And to make it even better, Funny Valentine uses the existence of the court's parts to justify what he would do to the rest of the world. He used the existence of the court's parts to say that America is the chosen people, something that has been used in real life, especially if you look back post Civil War with Manifest Destiny, for example, when all the Americans started moving to the West. They're using, oh, we're the chosen people. We deserve this. We deserve all of this. This is ours. This isn't yours. This is ours. And of course, we have to talk about his napkin speech. But really, I want to talk about what happens after he felt like he took the first napkin. Because he did say that. And after he saw what basically Love Train does. This man, and I want to point this out specifically. I'm about to read it off to y'all. What he says. This is the napkin on the round table, the one that the entire world must follow after. To me, Valentine. Power, glory, happiness, culture, law, money, food, the hearts of the people. I have taken the first napkin. It's not we have taken the first napkin. It's not America has taken the first napkin. I have taken the first napkin. Which is another thing I want to just say before I end this video. Funny Valentine didn't care that much about America itself. Like I alluded to earlier in the video, he cared about the idea of America more than the people of America. How America looks to everyone else, what America does to everyone else. That's what he cares about. And his own narcissism, his known narcissism, is what allows him to believe that he is the leader of that, rather than him being the president, rather than him being someone who's trying to just help his country. He wants to be the person who takes everything away from the other countries while propping his country up, and so he can get all the credit, all the money, all the fame, all the power, everything. Like, that was his point. That is his narcissism literally going rampant inside his brain. If y'all have more connections, I would love to hear them. And if y'all want more videos like this where I'm just picking some topics, breaking down some characters, whatever, just let me know. But until next time, we're on the road to 5K. Peace. Contrary to popular belief, the Joestar bloodline that we see in the show is not so linear as you would expect. Before you go into the show, you honestly kind of expect almost everybody to be either sons or close, very close relatives to whoever is going into the next part. But a lot of the times, that's just not the case. Part 1 and 2, okay, grandfather, grandson, same with part 2 and 3. Then from part 3 and 4, it gets a little crazy. You go from grandfather, grandson to now uncle, nephew, except the 16-year-old is the uncle and the 28-year-old is the nephew. Then from part 5 on, if you really want to know the relations, those are real crazy. Think about the relation from Jotaro to Giorno. That's like a 3 times great uncle. You know what I mean? Grand uncle, great grand uncle. Then from Jolene to Giorno, it's just more crazy ass relations. That's why today I want to talk about some of the most forgotten Joestars within the Joestar family tree, because even though we have the main Joestars, they are those of the main Joestar's immediate family. Like, for example, someone like Johnny's brother, Nicholas. And speaking of Nicholas, why not start with him? Nicholas Joestar was the older brother of Johnny Joestar. And this is part 7 spoilers, so if you haven't read part 7 completely, or you haven't gotten to this part of the backstory, please skip through this part. We don't see much about Nicholas in part 7, but we do know that he was a very, very, very impactful part of Johnny's life. He was the guy where when their father would be a little bit too angry or too hasty or do whatever, he would be comforting Johnny. And we saw that on one particular night when Johnny, he brought home a mouse that he named Danny, which is basically this version's of part 1's Danny. And once his father saw it, he lost his shit and told him, flush that shit down the toilet. Now, he was crying about it and he didn't want to do it, so Nicholas came to him with the idea of just releasing it into the wild so that now it's gone and their father would never have to see it, but you don't have to go through the pain of killing it. And Johnny did that. But years later, or like a few months later really, Johnny and Nicholas are at the horse race track. And while at the horse race track, while Nicholas is on his horse, a white mouse scurries onto the field. Mind you, same color mouse as Danny. And it ends up startling the horse, causing Nicholas to fall and actually killing the young Nicholas. Now, obviously, Nicholas is probably forgotten because he only shows up in like 3 chapters. And it's on top of the fact that part 7 hasn't been animated yet. But since that hasn't happened yet, I'm going to use him. Hey. Most people don't talk about him, but genuinely, he literally is the cause of Johnny's PTSD, or a really big chunk of it. The other cause is the big fight he ends up having with his father, where his father ends up kicking him out and actually referencing Nicholas, saying, "God, why did you take the wrong son?" Do you know how ridiculous it is to say something as crazy as that? Oh dear God, why did you leave me with this disgusting pile of trash? This is also where we talk about all 3 George Joestars. I'm pretty sure the two of them are like George Joestar the first, then one of them is George Joestar the second. All 3 of them do not get talked about that much, and most of it's fair, I'm not gonna lie. Starting off with the OG universe, George Joestar the first was Jonathan Joestar's father, and he was a very kind person, but he was also blinded by his kindness. And the reason I say that is multiple. Honestly, you have what Dario Brando continued to pull throughout Jonathan's childhood, where there was also a time where he pawned George's stuff and then he went to jail and George literally bailed him out. Then there's also the fact that when Dario literally found him, he was trying to pawn and steal most of his stuff, and George woke up and was like, oh my god, you're saving me, not looking down and seeing that this nigga is literally trying to take his ring off his hand. He's not saving you. Then once he gets older and Dio finally comes, he believes almost everything Dio does over his own son. Literally almost everything. Everything that we see from like 12 in that little montage, Jonathan kept getting the worst brunt of the stick. And mind you, Jonathan does not have a mother. His mother's passed in that awful carriage ride. So his father is just being a dickhead to him when this man is doing nothing and Dio is giving him the most slick looks ever. Do you know how mad I would be? But at the end of the day, he was literally just doing what he felt was best, especially for a kid that was straight out the slums. So you can say there is some positives to his character. But the others, well, really, the other universe, George Joestar. George Joestar's second, he was also pretty cool. I mean, we never really saw anything about him at all, except the fact that he was raised by Arena and Speedwagon, and him and Lisa grew up together, and they ended up falling in love, and he went off to the Air Force, eventually got killed by one of Dio's zombies, like literally one of the last remaining Dio zombies that somehow snuck their way into society. And then Lisa killed the zombie and went on the run. Completely regular person who got caught in Dio's shenanigans, and he was only like 20. That's just sad, honestly. Now, for the other George Joestar, that man right there. Oh, what a bitch he is. I hate him. I really do. You know, I was talking about it just a little bit earlier, but saying I hate you, I wish God took you instead of my other son is kind of ridiculous. Understandable, you've lost your wife, you've lost your son. Those two hits are crazy. But all your other son was literally asking for was to use his older brother's shoes. Shoes that if his older brother was there, he would have said, oh yeah, sure, I don't care. But no, you want to be a dickhead and say, oh well, you should have got new shoes. You should have known your shoes were going to fall apart. How the fuck would he still have known that? You fucking idiot. Then after kicking him out, he doesn't visit him when he goes through the absolute worst time of his life. This is probably the worst thing he could go through. He literally lost all mobility on his lower half. He became disabled. He was being mistreated by the judges in there, by the nurses in there, because he was rich. He keyword was rich. He can't be rich anymore because, again, he can't race anymore because his legs no longer work. He has no function in them. But did his father reach out, call, text, visit? None of that. No. Even though you couldn't text back then, but you get my fucking point. And then at the end of the steel ball race, this is a spoiler, I want to let you know, but at the end of the steel ball race, he has the audacity to show up, be like, that's my son, I'm so sorry for everything I've done to you, I'm so sorry for leaving you in the worst part of your entire life, to the point where you had to go through your own literal journey by yourself and grow and heal as a person with no parental figure and no friends. But I'm back now. You're on national TV and I'm back. I heard you throughout the newspapers. Oh, fuck him. He legitimately pisses me off. It's like very few anime characters piss me off. He legitimately pisses me off. Because everyone always says, oh, he was grieving. What about his grief? Nigga, what about your son's grief? Your son lost his mother and his older brother. And yet you're too... Oh, you know what? No. Fuck him. To end this video off, we got Shizuka Joestar, which is the only adoptive Joestar member I will talk about in this video, because Lisa, everyone still kind of talks about her. I loved Shizuka Joestar because all of her episodes were funny to me, and her power is low-key overpowered. When she grows up, especially since she's a natural stand user, when she grows up, she's going to be such a problem and issue. Part of me kind of wishes we saw her in part 6, if I'm being honest. Matter of fact, now I'm thinking about it, we would just seen like a 13-year-old girl in a prison. Nah, she would have got killed. Like, she would have died. But Shizuka Joestar was found by Josuke and Joseph and Morio just wandering on the ground with no clothes, no nothing, and automatically invisible with only a dog sensing her and about to attack. They found her, they got her clothes, got her some food, got her all that, right? But they realized with her power, since she's a baby and it literally has no cognitive thought for real and can't control her shit, if she gets really angry, it's just almost everything around her also turns to invincible. But even when she's really happy, everything around her also turns invisible. I remember Joseph holding her in his hands and her poof disappearing. But if I'm being honest, her power, like, we don't know much about her, and I can't say much about her because she's a little baby, but her power when she grows up would be so disgusting. Because again, I even alluded to this on my TikTok, but I was literally like, she can turn, when she understands it, she can turn herself invisible while having the weapon she's holding invisible, or she can be visible while holding a weapon. Do you know how ridiculous that is? But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace.
Within JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, so far we've only seen 6 of these stand arrows out of all of them that we could have potentially seen. Today, I want to go over the history of the stand arrow and really just the history of stands and what they are, simply because it's a long history. We're talking about going back 50,000 years to where the meteorite crashed. Now, if you don't know, or if you haven't watched part 5, they did give us an explanation of where the stand users came from, or not stand users, where the stands themselves and stand arrows came from, and how, in short terms, it's basically an alien virus. But really the story starts in 1978 when a group of explorers, I guess, they found an unknown virus, and when scientists had tested the unknown virus, they couldn't find the purpose for it besides wiping humans out. Like, it was literally just killing people. And it was through that they figured out and discovered that through the virus, it unlocked essentially a fight or flight version within a human, which we call stands. Now, with stands, they were somewhat similar to the theory of evolution, but I also have to jump back in time to when the stand arrows were created, because when stands and the ability to get stands were discovered and when stand arrows were actually created are two very separate times, because the arrows were actually created hundreds of years before the stand was discovered. The stand arrows were created by a man who sought to get the power of the gods, so he took the rocks and fashioned them into arrowheads, where the arrowheads allowed the wielder to unlock stand abilities and basically unlock their potential more. As we all know, the arrowheads will end up being the trigger for someone getting the stand, and that's when we get all the way back to 1986, where we see for the first time in this story a young Diablo, and he's with an Egyptian investigation team. Well, during this investigation, young Diablo finds 6 stand arrows for himself, and through finding those 6, he ends up selling 5 of them to Enya the Hag and keeping one for himself. Enya the Hag ended up giving a stand arrow to Dio, Kensho Nichimura, Yoshihiro, Kira, and Popo, essentially spreading them out so far and wide across the world that almost anyone could end up with a stand if they were just in the right place at the right time. Now we're here to the abilities and the consequences of actually like using a stand arrow, which I'm pretty sure everyone kind of knows about, but I'll just rehash it for you. If you use it and you have no spiritual pressure, you're dead. But if you do, you get a free new stand that almost cost you your entire life. Sounds like a fair trade-off. But we all know what the stands are made of, so again, I don't have to rehash that again. It's made from the damn meteorite and the alien virus, and if you aren't strong enough for that alien virus, you don't have that will, good fucking luck. Now, of course, there are points when the arrow will just naturally seek out and pierce those who, like, the arrow knows can handle it. Like, for example, when Yoshikage Kira got pierced again, and he got bites to dust. Kira didn't move for the stand arrow to pierce him. Neither did his father. He just got pierced. It also should be noted that, like, even if you get a stand, right, and you get pierced again, it's not guaranteed that you'll get a new ability or that you'll even get a Requiem ability. You know, for example, we have Giorno. When he was fighting Black Sabbath, he got cut a good few times by that stand arrow and nothing happened. You know what I mean? But speaking of the effects of stand arrows, let's talk about Requiem stands, because that's when something very important really does happen. Now, the possibility of you getting rejected by a Requiem stand when you already have a stand is pretty fucking low. We don't really see a rejection within the anime. Some people call Diablo not catching the stand as a rejection, but if you really watched, I'm pretty sure it has something to do with Silver Chariot and the fact that Bruno was messing with the ball of light behind Silver Chariot's head. But with Requiem stands, the stand arrow usually pierces you and stays within you, basically evolving your stand into one with massive power and unbridled power, where no one could theoretically stop you because it's the super evolved version of your stand. It's like you just evolved your fucking Pokemon to the last, most potent, most evil level the Pokemon could ever get. Now let's talk about stand awakenings through families, because that's something I actually do want to talk about. When someone is pierced by a stand, it will pass down usually to all of your alive family members. So if we look back at part 3, when Dio got a stand and he had pierced a young Jonathan Joestar's body, that made not only Joseph get a stand, Jotaro also got a stand, Holly, and a young Josuke. All 4 of them got a stand. 2 out of the 4 could not handle it. However, we saw after Dio was killed, because the only way to reverse these effects is by killing the person who pierced the body. But we saw after Dio was killed, Josuke actually awakened his stand. But that only works on alive family members, as we see like later down the line when we're looking at Jolene, Kujo in particular. She has to pierce her hand to get a stand. You know, it's not naturally given to her or anything. She's not naturally born with it. And as for the stands, they only recovered 1, or technically 2, because there is an unaccounted for stand that Jotaro has, where, or stand arrow that Jotaro has, where that was the one where he gave Jolene the part of the pendant. But other than that, the one Diablo saved for himself was shattered when Popo died, because he gave it to Popo. The one the Nijimura brothers had, the Speedwagon Foundation now has. The one that Yoshihiro Kira has died with Kira, because it merged with Kira when Kira got bites the dust. And then finally the one Giorno had, again, merged with Giorno. So we don't know. But if you enjoyed this video by your half stand user, half not stand user, you don't know. I do though. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know, we're on the road to 5K, so anything helps. And until next time, peace.